Hi and welcome to christinescrafts.com. Today in this video I'm going to show you how to make a tool roll suitable for whatever tools you need to keep safe and want handy and transport around the place. This one's for punches, but you can make them for spanners, for artist brushes. This is one I have for some nail art brushes. You can see it's really faded where I've kept it in the sun, but all my brushes are perfect inside. So let's get started and see what you need. I'm Christine of christinescrafts.com and this channel is dedicated to crafting on a budget. All you're going to need to make your tool roll is some fabric. Now if it's for a workshop environment, you're going to want a thick fabric like canvas. If you're just making it for some brushes for your studio, a nice cotton's probably going to be more suitable, perhaps a fat quarter. How big a piece of fabric? Well, that's what I'm going to show you how to work out how much you need. You need to get all the tools that you want to put in your roll, and you need to lay them out on your fabric and think about how big you want your tool roll to be. So you can see I'm looking there and thinking about how big I want my pocket to be, and I'm now going to grab all the small punches that I also want to put in here. Now obviously having long tools and short tools is going to present me with a certain problem later on, but I will explain later in the video how you can deal with all different length tools. So that'll be the pocket, and then this side will cover over to keep everything secure. Now obviously I have too much fabric at the moment, so I need to work out how much to cut off. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out how wide my fabric needs to be for this tool roll. So I'm going to work in inches, and I'm going to decide how wide each pocket needs to be. Now because I'm using punches, I'm going to do all my pockets the same width. And I think the largest one is going to fit in a 1-inch pocket. If they were all that large, I'd probably go slightly bigger. And I've got 13 punches, so my tool roll needs to end up 13 inches wide. But I also need to consider I need a hem all the way around it. So I'm going to add another inch to either side. So I'm actually going to cut mine 15 inches wide. The next thing you need to think about is how tall your piece of fabric needs to be, how long. So fold up your fabric and decide how deep a pocket you would like so that your tools stick out, but they're not sticking out so far they're going to flop out and fall everywhere. So I think I'm going to go with 6 inches, which means I need to allow 7 inches of fabric because I need to allow an inch for a hem. That's what you're allowing all the way around. And then I'm going to see when that fabric folds over onto the longest tool, how much do I want that to overlap? Measure down and make a decision. I think I'm going to go 7 inches, so I'm going to allow 8 inches more. And then you need to add those two measurements to the height of the tallest tool. So for me, my piece of fabric is going to end up 23 inches long. So once you've got those two measurements, you know how wide and how long. It's simply a case of cutting them out. Take your time to make sure you cut out a good rectangle so that it doesn't taper. Because I'm working in checks, it's very easy for me. You might need to do a bit more measuring if you haven't got anything to follow. So just cut it out and have a nice tidy rectangle. And then the very first thing you need to do is just check you're happy and that you don't need to trim any off if maybe you've been a little bit generous, if you've allowed too much. So that's what I'm doing. I'm placing the longest tool, looking whether it's going to be about right. Once I've taken the hem off that, I think it is. You can see what it's going to be like. It's just going to roll along there. So think about this hem all the way around. That's the first thing you need to do. So if you remember, we decided an inch would be the right amount for our hem. So from one side, just measure 1 inch and fold to the wrong side, and then double fold it. So remember, you've still only used an inch, but your hem's going to end up looking like it's half an inch because you've folded it double. This means you have no raw edge showing and you get a nice tidy edge that should also last a lot longer. It's good and strong. So you're going to work your way all the way along this side. Now I haven't spread the film up because I want to show you the corner because it can get a little bit tricky at the corners. Now I've chosen to pin the two sides and then overlap the end hems. It really doesn't matter, but if you're consistent, you just end up with a tidier job, something that looks a bit nicer at the end of the day. So now when I get to the corner, I'm going to turn and I'm going to measure my inch down from the end and fold the hem at an inch down. Now, when you try and do your double hem, at the corner, it's going to get very tricky because you've got a double hem from both sides, so it's ending up very thick. So just persevere and take your time and make sure it lines up properly, and then secure it, either with a clip or with a pin. And then you can carry on measuring your inch along the top and pinning it in place. You'll see I'm using pins and clips just to show you it really doesn't matter. And just keep going all the way around. You want your 1-inch hem all the way around. You want to make sure each corner is well done and nice and tidy, and that you're consistent. Remember to keep measuring, especially if you haven't got checks or stripes to follow, and then you won't end up with a wavy edge to your tool roll. Once you've got it all done, all pinned or clipped, and you're happy, it's going to be time to take it to the machine. Now, if you're a little bit nervous, you can always check it again. As you can see, my pocket's going to be perfect and the overlap's going to be great. It's going to keep everything secure. And then it's over to the machine to sew that hem in place. So just start down one of your edges, it doesn't matter which, and work your way down. When you get to the corner, just take your time. It's very thick and some machines will cope better than others. Make sure once you get right to the corner, you secure all the surfaces and then you pivot. So you simply keep the needle in, lift the foot, turn it through 90 degrees, put the foot back down, and away you go again. And just keep going and repeat that at every corner. And you should be getting a nice tidy job. You may notice I often tweak mine. I'm poking my fingers in, making sure I'm happy with it. That's absolutely fine. Then when you get round to where you started, make sure you overlap the stitching and do a little reverse so nothing comes undone. So now you need to form a pocket for your tools to go in. So get the longest tool that you've got, place it onto your fabric, and then fold the fabric till you're happy with it. So you're going to get the pocket the length you want so that your tool sticks out, but it's not sticking out too far, and that the other end will overlap and keep them secure. And then mark where you folded your pocket, because you're going to fold along there and we're going to sew it in place. Now if you've not got nice checks to follow, make sure you mark both ends because you don't want a tapery pocket. Once you're happy you've got it nice and straight, pin the pocket on both sides because that's where we're going to sew it in place to form like a bag that is our tool roll. So again, make sure you're nicely lined up, nice and straight, and pin either end. And then it's time to make the little pockets for the tools. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see it and it's clear, but an air erasable pen is great for doing this, especially if it's something delicate. It's okay using a Sharpie on a tool roll that's going to go out in the garage with workshop tools in it. Air erasable pen means it will disappear. So now it's time to mark your pocket. So go along your pocket, and for me that's marking every 1 inch. For you that may be different sizes for different tools. Just take your time and get them right. And just mark every single pocket. You want a good clear mark so you know where you're going to sew. And then take your ruler to the folded edge and repeat those measurements. Now I'm not going to do that because I've got my checks that I can just run along. I can see whether I'm straight, but it's worth taking your time to make sure you're straight. Then place the ruler on and draw in your sewing line. So obviously on mine that sewing line is now marked with a Sharpie. You're always going to see that Sharpie. If you've used an air erasable pen, that will disappear after you've sewn. Once you've marked them all, It may be worth pinning the pocket down so that it can't move about whilst you're sewing. And then we're going to sew either end and then every single pocket. Takes a little bit of time, but it's very straightforward to do. So over to the machine and sew one side. Remember to do a little reverse at the beginning and a little reverse at the end to make sure nothing's going to come undone. And then instead of doing another pocket, swap to the other end and sew the other side so that you form the bag and it can't all just slide across whilst you're sewing it on each of its pockets. Work your way to the bottom, little reverse, and you've now made basically a little bag, a little pouch. And then one by one, you're going to sew each pocket. So just set yourself up to sew down one of the lines you made. When you get to the top, a little reverse to keep it secure. Cut off your threads, move to the next one. You can check your tools fit as you go along, or you can just keep going. And that's all there is to that part. You just keep going until you get to the other end and you've done them all. I'm not going to show you all of mine. They'll just magically be done with the joys of video. So now you need to turn your attention to your strap. Now if you're using ribbon or webbing, that's fine. But if you need to use the fabric you've got, you need to cut a long length and fold it in half lengthways. As you can see, I'm not only folding it, I'm pressing it. Then open it out and then press one edge to the center and do that all the way along. Now for mine, I've used a piece of fabric that's 3 inches wide so that I end up with a strap that is 3/4 of an inch wide. It's entirely up to you how wide you do it. And I generally, to be honest, use webbing or ribbon for my strap, but I didn't have any, so I made some out of the matching fabric. So once you've done that folding in on one side, you're going to repeat it to the other side. And what this means is that when we fold all these folds, we can trap all the raw edges in and make a really nice tidy strap. And that's what we're going to do. And then pin or clip it, take it to the sewing machine and sew along it. Now if you want a nice tidy end, you do need to just fold the end of each of the handle in at each end to make it all tidy. As ever, a little bit of reverse at the beginning. It is going to be very thick at the end, so be very careful. Take your time. If you want to, you can do a run of stitching along either side. It just makes it tidier. For example, if you're doing bag handles. Mine's going in a workshop, so it's just getting one run of stitches. And then once you've got your strap, be it a ribbon or one you've just made, we're going to attach it to the tool roll. Now, because my tools are one set, one length and one set another, I've got a little extra task. So if you've got a similar situation, you can just sew the pockets closed on the ones that you want to be shorter. So lay all your tools out and mark which pockets you need to shorten and where you're going to sew your seam. So then when I sew along there, those tools will still stick out. They'll not drop into the bottom of the pocket. And then whether you're doing that or not, you need to take your handle, fold it in half, and where the fold is, we're going to attach it to the roll. So you're just going to take it to one side and you're going to sew it to the hem. Now you can put it wherever you like. So I'm just going to clip it there and try it. Now when I fold the top over, I think that's too near the end. I want it further down. So play around until you're happy with it. I'm going to move mine down till it's just at the top of the pocket opening. And I'm going to sew it there. Now I haven't shown you in the video, but I hand sewed mine on because it was so thick that I couldn't get it under the machine. So make sure you securely attach that strap, be it by hand or by machine. And that's it. You're all finished. You can roll up your tool roll, fasten it up and take them wherever you like. And I did promise you I'd show you one I'd made for some spanners. Now forgive me because it came straight out of the garage and this has been here for years and been well used. So you can see they're all different lengths, they're all different widths. So I sewed different width pockets and I cut the end of the fabric at a slope so that you could get different length pockets as you went across. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you enjoy making yours. Please let me know in the comments below what you're making your tool roll for or who it's for. And please give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the video and subscribe to see more.